Roseanne last night, and she couldn't get a hold of you yet, and wasn't sure she'd be able to, so I told her I'd come by and just check up.
You mean check up on me? Like I couldn't handle it?
Well, I came
Crystal,
over
what
to
are you trying to say?
I'm not trying to say anything.
Well, it sounds like you are. I'm tired of everybody thinking I can't handle everything. I might not do everything exactly the way Roseanne would do it if Roseanne was here, or the way that you would do it if you were here, but I think I can handle 3 kids for 3 days.
Welcome to Gimmicks, a podcast about the high-concept, experimental, structure-breaking gimmick episodes of TV, from musicals to noirs to episodes without its lead title character that becomes strangely relevant 30 years later. I'm Derek B. Gale, and who's with me today?
I am back once again, fresh off of a recording about Power Rangers, and now Kevin, Bridge MT, is back in the game.
Yeah, very different show than Power Rangers.
I know.
That's for sure.
Well, it's good to be back. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Now, hey, Kevin, what sounds like a better meal? Late night pot roast and potatoes with a glass of milk, or French toast and bacon that you have to eat with your hands while driving into work?
Oh, girl, it's the pot roast. Like, I've been craving it so bad lately. Like...
Yeah, I like pot roast, but man, that pot roast in this episode does not look very good. I don't know.
Well, I mean,
I'm not sure I'm feeling it.
I mean, to be fair, it was also a pot roast made by somebody for the first time that people don't regard as a typical cook. Yeah,
that's fair.
But the milk, though.
Yeah, the milk. No, I can't. Nope.
Really?
Nope. I like milk, but not with pot roast on the side. Like not like with dinner. I can't. I know that's like a thing on TV. I can't do that.
I mean, okay, so this is like going to be part of what we talk about this episode. Like that's the kind of thing me and my family do. Like, I'm not joking. Like we do pot roast and we do milk with it, or we do like hamburger steak and we do it with milk. So, yeah, it's a real thing.
I did that when I was a kid, but like. Not after a while. It was very early that like I stopped doing it. I just can't, like I've seen it on TV and it's like spaghetti and meatballs and a glass of milk. And it's like, what? Why? What are you doing?
I still do it in my 30s with certain meals. So.
Wow. Well, I learned something today that is not just a TV thing.
It's not.
Cool.
It's not.
We are talking about Roseanne, Season 2, Episode 15, entitled An Officer and a Gentleman.
Yes.
For those who are unfamiliar with Roseanne, there's going to be a lot of background stuff that we'll get into, but for the briefest of rundowns.
Yes.
It was a very popular sitcom.
Yeah.
And in its original run, it aired on ABC from 1988 to 1997, originally for 9 seasons. It was created by Matt Williams, who's known for creating Home Improvement and writing on a number of popular 80s sitcoms. And of course, Roseanne Barr herself, who at the time was early in her career as a stand-up comedian.
Yes.
The premise of the show follows Roseanne Connor, played by Roseanne, and her working class family, which includes Dan, played by John Goodman, and sister Jackie, played by Laurie Metcalf, living on a limited income in a small town in Illinois. And that's pretty much really just the premise. It's considered one of the first sitcoms to very realistically portray a blue collar family with like two working parents, like very realistic, like set design and things like that.
Yeah.
And it also just broke tons of barriers, very progressive, dealt with a lot of like provocative issues and usually dealt with them relatively realistically in ways that no other sitcoms were doing. And also like broke new ground with having multiple openly queer characters in the cast as well. So it was an instant hit. One of the highest rated and most popular sitcoms, like just ever during its original run. Like right from the get-go, it was a hit. And it really wasn't until kind of towards the very end of it that it started kind of petering out, consistently listed on greatest TV show lists all over the place. And all of that is like in spite of like a controversial final season and all sorts of behind the scenes troubles that of course we're going to get into. And of course there's like notoriously one very popular revival season in 2018 that though it was popular, it was canceled and retooled without Barr's involvement into The Connors, which is currently in its 4th season. Yeah. Again, we'll get into all that stuff. But before we do, Kevin, what is your personal history with Roseanne?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, I grew up with the show. Like I can barely remember watching it as it aired, but then I really watched more of it on like Nick at Night because, as I mentioned before, I think when I was on Gimmicks last time, I was a Nick at Night kid. Like I grew up with all of those sitcoms. You know, I remember being like a 5-year-old kid and like they would have that little bumper that's like, okay, it's going to be Nick at Night, kids, go to bed. And I'd be excited for that. Like I watched, no, I mean, like seriously, I grew up.
No, I get
like,
it.
I love Lucy, Brady Bunch, Jeffersons, All in the Family. Like that's what I watched. And so once Roseanne finally became in the late, I think it was like the mid 2000s, they finally like hit that point where it could be put on Nick at Night. Yeah. I remember that's when I got into it even more and started rewatching it. I know my parents kind of like loved it when I was a kid. And then once more of the queer content started coming in, they started like distancing themselves from it. So that's why I remember that too. But it really was something that like, even now as an adult, I mean, I rewatch it from time to time. Like you said, it was one of the first sitcoms to show a blue collar family where like mom and dad both worked. They were overweight. They weren't conventionally attractive. Like they weren't a perfect family. Yeah. And it was very much a small, low income family, which that's my background. That's what, I grew up in a small town and, we weren't like, we were okay, but like, we struggled like other families did in the city. And it just, there's been so many beats of that show that reflect my life. So it's like when you were like, who eats milk with pot roast? I was like, that's what I do. But like in all seriousness though, like there were like beats of certain story arcs in the show that like actually happened in my life with certain family members. And it just always has had a special place in my heart for the writing, the humor. Like I could literally just, it's like The Nanny for me. I could rewatch that show so many times. And despite certain controversies and despite certain issues, I am actively watching The Connors. I am caught up on it. I am excited for season 5 and it's going to be a good time. So yeah, that's my little history of Roseanne. What about you?
It's not that different. I was never, I don't think I was ever as big of a fan as I think you were. That makes it sound like I didn't like the show as much more. Among like the kind of sitcoms that were around in the 90s and then were sort of the ones that I would watch growing up and whatnot. Right. That wasn't usually at the top of my list necessarily. Yeah. But it was always one that I think I had a lot of appreciation for and have only grown in appreciation for the older I've gotten. Exactly. And like, it was kind of unavoidable, right? Like it was such a big hit that like once it did hit syndication and once it was on Nick at Night, like Nick at Night ran the shit out of it. So yes, like you couldn't avoid it.
Yeah. Like even today you still like, well, it's really funny because for a little while you could, because it got pulled from so many networks after certain controversies we'll talk about later. But like even now, like CMT runs it like all the time. Like it's one of those, I think they run it in like Home Improvement and sometimes like, which is kind of funny because I didn't realize that, he had made Roseanne and Home Improvement. But yeah, like it. So if you want to know how much this show has affected my sense of humor and how much I love it, regardless, I'm going to spill some tea that I haven't really told many people. And so I hope you appreciate this. Okay. So, we all think sometimes like we watch TV shows and we're like, oh, I could do that. So I do that with Drag Race sometimes. And do you want to know who my Snatch Game character would be if I got on Drag Race?
Yes, I do want to know.
It would be Roseanne Connor. Okay. Like chicken shirt and all, the long wig. Oh, perfect. And what I would do is I would play her like as, that really sardonic for a little bit. And then midway through, turn into this like right-wing conspiracy theorist Trump supporter and just be like, yeah, for some reason I like Trump now. Like that's my plan. So if I ever get on Drag Race.
It's a good pull. That's a great idea.
Right. That would be what it is. Like I would be very progressive at the start and then midway through, just like all of a sudden,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, no, it works. Roseanne, just as a person, is just such an interesting personality and just such an interesting character. Like, she's a fascinating person, you know, in good and bad ways, but I think fascinating nevertheless. And like, I mean, and it's so frustrating because it's like that is all her sort of big personality that she has is obviously a big part of the reason why this show works and is so attractive to people, right? Like, you know, for one, just seeing a strong woman on TV and the way that she is, where it is just like unapologetically herself. One of the things that I remember with this show is that Roseanne did remind me of my own mom in certain ways. Like, my mom was never kind of as caustic as Roseanne would be, but like the way that Roseanne and all of the Connors are like so unafraid of just being super sarcastic with each other and teasing each other, but always doing it in such a way that like you knew that there was love behind it, you know? Like, there would be times my mom's just like, I don't feel like cooking tonight. Y'all aren't stupid. Do it yourselves. Like that kind of thing, like that kind of vibe. And I think that's a really relatable thing, especially for working parents, you know, when both of your parents are working, which is not a thing you really saw much on sitcoms before sort of this point. Yeah. And like, I know for me, this wasn't a show that I think the only reason I wasn't watching it like obsessively was as a kid really was just because I think my parents weren't watching it a ton, probably partially because, you know, once the queer content kicks in, it's just like, whoa, no, we're not touching that. But also because I feel like there were kind of like dueling shows between Roseanne and Married with Children, because both of them were sort of like, look at how real low income families really are. And for my family, Married with Children kind of won out with them because it was a wackier and edgier show. And I think that's just what they were kind of attracted to. Yeah. And Roseanne, I mean, it would eventually get very, very wacky, but in a different way.
Well, and it's so funny you mentioned Married with Children, because I'm pretty sure, I mean, I was doing some research before we recorded today. Didn't Roseanne audition for Peggy Bundy? I feel like that's something I read about. Yeah.
That sounds right. I feel like makes sense.
Yeah. Which also makes it very freaking hilarious when you see, I don't know, have you watched The Connors or have you kept up with it?
I watched the first season of it, but I haven't seen beyond that, but I know that Katie Sagal is on it now. She is. So do you want some spoilers? Yeah, I know what you're going to say, but you go, spoiler it up.
It's the fact that like Katie Sagal marries Dan, like he remarries, and now they live together, and like it's really, really, really surreal. And so like I love it because I also grew up watching Married with Children, and I love Katie Sagal. She is fabulous, and she's great.
That's a great choice. I think she fits in with the vibe of that show so well.
Yeah, well, it was really funny because she had her show Rebel on ABC for a little bit, and then it got canceled. And like, I'm pretty sure like the Connors team like swooped in and they were like, "We want you to stay, please stay." Yeah, sure. And so they got married this season, and like it was a really interesting dynamic seeing that. And John Goodman, of course, as always, is fabulous. But anyway, yes. Yeah. So it's funny. It's funny you mentioned that.
Nothing in the world is more rewarding than motherhood. You teach, you love, you care, you nurture, and you watch them grow stronger, healthier, and more lovely every day. Excuse me. How many times do I have to tell you no fighting in the house? Anyway, the best part about raising a family is that your husband's always there, day in, day out. Oh, he's more than just my partner and my lover. He's my soulmate.
She's Donna Reed.
What did I tell you about killing your brother in the living room?
June Cleaver.
Yeah, I looked in the mirror and I'm getting boobs.
And Harriet Nelson.
This is why some animals eat their young.
Rolled into one.
I like it.
Finally, a real mother comes to television. Roseanne premieres next.
I have a couple of weird things with Roseanne with me, just with my experience with it, because I think that the first time I really saw it and kind of understood what it was outside of it just being like a sitcom that my parents watched sometimes but not all the time was in high school. I did the summer film program, and one of the classes that I took was the history of sitcoms, which is a really cool class, and it was literally just kind of picking out a sitcom kind of from different decades or different kinds of sitcoms. And of course, Roseanne was huge. So that was one of the ones that they picked out as sort of representative of how low income households are portrayed and realistic sitcoms essentially. And I think it was an early one where Roseanne is giving Darlene the talk. Is it the talk or is it her first period? I don't remember which one it is.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. But either way, just the way that it was like so aptly handled, and like, I just remember Roseanne, just like her whole reaction of being so awkward with talking to her own children. And it's just like, I remember the whole class was just kind of like riveted by it. And I think, you know, watching it academically, like that, I think we realize like this sitcom is doing a lot, like, especially once you watch it compared to the ones that come before it. Like plenty of sitcoms in the 80s would do your very special episodes and stuff like that. But the way that Roseanne would sort of handle these things where they wouldn't sound preachy, it would just sound like this is what would happen if a mom and a daughter had this awkward conversation. And like, and I think that people would really, I think that kind of thing just really resonates with people seeing that represented on screen.
Which it makes me think of, like, I actually was watching some clips before we recorded, and I don't know, there was the episode where like their power went out, and like I was thinking about that one too anyway in general, because like it was something you didn't see in many sitcoms, which like the fact that the family couldn't pay their bills, and so they lost their power for a couple of nights because they didn't have the money. But it was similar in vein to Roseanne talking to Darlene about the period, was her talking about like sex, because David like slept over and, you know, they fell asleep, they forgot, and they didn't do anything. But she was like, no, I'm not stupid. You really think that you couldn't like have sex quietly without us knowing 20 feet away? And then Darlene just retorts back and she's like, you can't. And I'll have to send you the clip later, but yeah, she was like, I had to tell David that you were moving furniture. And then like Roseanne plays off it really well, and like it's just really well done. So like things like that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the frankness of everything, because like that's how a lot of, I mean, not every family is like that, but a lot more families are like that than not, I feel like.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. There are so many families from my hometown that I knew in high school and middle school that were like, they were the Connors made over. Yeah. And I think too, like as an older queer man now, like seeing that queer representation that Roseanne pushed for. I mean, let's talk about the fact that, you know, Roseanne had one of the first major lesbian kisses on primetime television. The fact that, you know, there were prominent queer characters, like you mentioned. The fact that Roseanne herself, like in character, planned a wedding for two gay men.
Yeah, or, like, you know, the lesbian kiss episode has Roseanne like confronting her own internalized homophobia too, which is a concept that like I feel like even now people struggle to understand how to talk about. Like, you can be as progressive as you want. That doesn't mean you're not still going to have these kind of unconscious biases inside of you that come out at the worst times, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's all fabulous. Like, it's really good looking back on it, despite certain struggles and issues that they had.
I think I did a pretty hefty watch through of it a few years ago. It was like coincidentally like right before they announced the revival, so I was like, well, that's perfect timing. But it was weirdly like during this point when it was on Netflix, but Netflix didn't have like the whole show. It had the collections or whatever, so it wasn't every episode. It was just like a mixture of different episodes, sometimes out of order from different seasons. So that was kind of awkward. So I didn't get to see every episode through that watch through, and I never tried to after that. So there's still chunks of it, like this episode that we're talking about. I don't think that was pulled in the watch through that I did. So I don't know if I had seen this episode before, I did not remember it at all, which was kind of a joy to watch it. But all of that was to say that like watching it in, I don't know, like 2016 or 2017 or something like that. It was just like, it's amazing how well this show holds up. And
it does.
Yeah. Like the things that it deals with, unfortunately, are things that still come up nowadays, and TV oftentimes struggles to talk about nowadays. And the things that don't hold up, like are kind of far and few in between, or are just sort of representative of like, well, it's good that we've sort of moved past that as society. And Roseanne was at least like kind of on the right side of history at that point in time, you know?
Well, yeah, because I actually, in the lead up to this, I actually rewatched all of season 10, which I hadn't seen since it aired because they blacklisted it. But Peacock has all of it now, like seasons 1 through 10. And so I watched season 10 over the last week, and I realized like, ooh.
Yeah, I watched season 10 when it came out just for the curiosity of it, knowing the stuff behind it. And like it definitely wasn't as bad as I remember it not being as bad as I expected it to be, but also still being kind of like, it's so clear that everybody's kind of trying to tiptoe around this, like, Roseanne herself.
Yeah.
And then I think I watched the first season of The Conners also for the curiosity of, like, is this going to be a shit show? Is this going to work? And was just kind of pleasantly surprised that it's just like, no, this is pretty good. And then I just never stuck with it. So
yeah, it's definitely like the Conners has had some issues, I think, just over time, but like it definitely has done a good job of continuing that progressive, realistic look at life, and just now with a 2022 filter, like it actually addresses the pandemic, even like they talk about that a lot. And
yeah, nice. Okay.
Yeah, so if you get a chance to watch it, it's hard to find apparently on streaming, but like if you can catch up on it, I recommend it. So
cool. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. Everybody like working on that show like is great. Like it was a stacked cast from its original heyday too. So I'm not like all those people can carry a show. It makes sense.
Yeah, like it was lightning in a bottle. Like that cast that's an ensemble cast.
Yeah, absolutely. It totally makes sense. And I mean, like you see that in this episode that we're talking about, that it's just sort of like, could you do this show without your title character? Without Roseanne is such a big personality, so influential, so important with creating this show and being a part of this show. Could it exist without Roseanne? And like, funny enough, this episode posits like, yes, it can. And then in real life, 30 years later, yes, it can. Which is so bizarre.
Although there were some definitely parallels that I realized, like watching it now, that we'll talk about a little bit, that I was like, oh, that's interesting. But it is interesting to see how that kind of was like the predictions that were made just without realizing it. Yeah.
Well, so let's talk about this background of the background of this episode, and then there's kind of a through line to where we're at in the present day with Roseanne as a person. Because like I said, the gimmick of this episode is, what if Roseanne wasn't around? She's going out of town for a week. She is in like the first like roughly 2 minutes of the episode, and then it's gone. There aren't even like cutaways. You don't even hear her over the phone or anything. She is just not present in the episode at all, and then only is in there for the last, like, she returns in the end credits tag for like 30 seconds or something like that. So she's barely in the episode. This is mostly a spotlight on Jackie, her sister, Laurie Metcalf, stepping into the mother role of the family and essentially being like in the lead role of this episode of television as well. You know, normally she just has to be second to Roseanne, right? So that alone is an interesting premise, right? Like without any real world context, just the idea of just like casting off your, or, you know, making your lead character go away for a bit and just focusing on someone else. Like that already is an interesting premise. What's even more interesting is that like Roseanne as a person, Roseanne Barr, is like just a notoriously hard person to work with. Right. And that's one of those things where like you hear that about a lot of women in show business, and oftentimes, most of the time, it's just like men not liking women who are trying to stand up for themselves. But I feel like it's pretty well known and well accepted that like with Roseanne, she is someone who really is just a big personality, very just stubborn and like committed to the work that she's doing. And obviously like there's a point when it's like for your creative integrity, believing in the work that you're doing. And then oftentimes Roseanne would kind of cross over the line and just be a mean person, according to a lot of accounts. So you can hear a lot of stories, a lot of reports of people, of like writers talking about how it was like one of the worst workplaces in television at the time. Yeah. Lots of like writer turnover and everything.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You know, I'm just realizing.
Yeah.
Roseanne was Dan Harmon before Dan Harmon.
It's in like, that kind of checks out. And like what's interesting is I feel like they had kind of opposite trajectories. Yeah. Because I feel like Dan Harmon has had an arc where like he has at least said that he was seems to have been grappling with that and like open about his problems and trying to correct them. You know, whether or not he has, that's up for debate. But like he kind of at least went in the direction of like recognizing like, I'm kind of the villain and I want to be better. And Roseanne was just sort of like, no, I'm right and I'm always right. And then just like went as far off in that direction as you possibly could forever into the abyss. So that means that when you get an episode that Roseanne is barely in, it makes sense that there's going to be rumors that it's sort of like, was that for like a creative reason, or was that a Roseanne reason? Right.
Right.
And so you pointed this out to me initially, so you might have some insight on it too, but we're probably both reading roughly the same stuff that
Probably, yeah.
there was rumors that you can find all over the internet that like this episode is sort of essentially a test pilot to see if they could do the show without Roseanne being involved. Most of the rumors that you'll find are kind of predicated on and attributed to creator Matt Williams and Roseanne Barr kind of having a feud, which is well known and well documented. In fact, like there was a point where there was an ultimatum and one or the other had to leave, and ultimately Williams ended up leaving. So that was a thing that did actually happen. It was that bad. But I think there's like a CBR article on like TV Legends that kind of debunks it. That's like the timeline doesn't really work out because he left like, I think in season 1, this is late in season 2. There's no way he would have been involved in the production of this particular episode.
Yeah.
But there are so many stories of Roseanne not getting along with so many writers and creatives that like, it is still entirely possible that somebody was mad and either a writer still wrote this trying to see if they could do the show without Roseanne, or Roseanne just didn't want to work that week. That's also, nobody's confirmed it one way or the other. So.
Right. Well, it's interesting too, because like, you know, there's always been those interviews where like people have said like, oh, so you and John don't get along. And like, you know, Roseanne, John, Laurie, they all have said, you know, we love working with each other, and you can see that in their chemistry on the show. I think what's also really interesting, though, is the fact that, like, John Goodman has even been quoted as saying this episode in particular is actually one of his favorite episodes because he loves working with Laurie. So that's interesting, too, is that he considers this one of his favorites. So I do think that, like, for the rumors that this is, like, a dramatic shift in tone and, like, you know, there's all this drama, like, I feel like he wouldn't have liked the episode if that was the case, but we don't know. We never know.
And, like, we'll talk about it when we're, like, kind of going through it, but it's, like, it's when you're looking at it through the lens of, like, this being kind of, like, a sort of either meta commentary or test on, like, doing the show without Roseanne. There's so many points in it when it's just sort of, like, almost the show kind of commenting on that, you know, it feels like in this episode, or like people just be like, isn't it great that mom's not here? Like that kind of stuff all throughout it. And it's like, it could be a coincidence, but it could also be them just being like, that's true. Wouldn't it be better without Roseanne? Like, who knows? Who knows?
That was definitely in my notes when I watched this, because I sat and took notes, because like, there's definitely that feeling, we talk a little about later, like they were really trying to, like you said, kind of show, hey, Jackie's a lot better at this. The family's actually happy. So it's,
Tuesday, October 16th. There's one thing on everyone's mind.
There's no place for the corn holders.
No, that ain't it. What's next for the Connors?
I thought we should talk about a game plan for Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas.
I say we follow the Connor tradition, spend every dime we have on Halloween, and then we have nothing to be thankful for or buy gifts with.
The Connors premieres Tuesday, October 16th on ABC.
Obviously, in the original run of Roseanne, she was there the entire time, famously. So that none of that happens. Nobody kills her off. There is no secret like coup to get her off the show or anything. All that goes normally. So what makes it so interesting in retrospect is when we get to 2018 and the show is revived. It's very popular. It's very successful. It's like very quickly renewed for a second season. But I'm sure people remember. But if you don't, there was a long string of controversy behind Roseanne in the lead up to the show. Because she sort of very famously came out as like a big far right Trump supporter, big like conspiracy theory person. And, you know, that was all there and the show went ahead without it. And like you were like kind of referring to earlier, it like worked it into her politics were worked into the show where like, they made her character a Trump supporter, but like they made that a sort of a source of tension because like other characters were still progressive like the old days and things. And they tried to make that a conversation. And they did, I will say to the credit of everyone working on the 10th season, they did try to find nuance in that. Like Roseanne, like they did try to purposely write her not being like a racist and like being open to like gender fluid type things. While also being a Trump supporter at the same time. So.
Yeah, well, and it is hard too because like there were moments where they didn't rain on that because, and I forgot about some of this when I rewatched it, but like they have an episode where Roseanne like assumes that her Muslim neighbors are terrorists.
Yeah. Yeah.
And is like afraid of them and things like that. So like it's hard because like it's one of those moments where like I guess it raises the question of is Roseanne, Connor, and Barr the same person or you know that kind of thing because yeah it does make sense. It's hard because there's a scene in the original Roseanne that I always think about when I think of season 10, and that's why I partially don't enjoy it as much, is when a politician comes to Roseanne's house and is like trying to convince her, like, you know, we're going to make people not pay taxes so it can bring jobs in and stuff like that. And like, she literally like runs around him and like hasn't figured out. And she's like, okay, so I'm paying the taxes. Like, how does that help me? Yeah. And then he's like, is your husband home? And then she just like shoos him away. And then it's like,
yeah. It's so good, but it's and it's like you can't. It's almost impossible to separate actor from the character in this case because Roseanne, the character, is so much of who Roseanne as a real person is. You know, which
is so frustrating because like I think they did have good intention of trying to like address like the Hillary versus Trump feuds that were happening around that time from families.
Sure,
but just the way it went, because I think it ended up, if I remember right, like Roseanne was like, "I'm sorry that you were wrong, Jackie." And like Jackie's like, I know, and I'm like, that's okay, sure.
It's like the best that they do is like an agree to disagree kind of thing, and it's like the thing is, I think that there would have been room for a show like Roseanne to deal with the bizarre state of politics at the time. And I think that given the way that Roseanne very realistically dealt with that kind of stuff back in its heyday, it could have been a show that did that. Like, what if like there are people that I know personally who were very progressive that just slipped into like the far right just because the propaganda is that good. And just the way that the world is right now, it's much easier to than you would expect. So like, I think that it could be a thing that I could see happening to the character, and you could find some nuance in how other characters deal with that, and you can mine comedy out of that too. Like, I think that is the thing that actually honestly would have been like a net positive for the world if it was done well, like being able to sort of have those conversations, you know. But obviously, like, Roseanne had a lot of creative control, and she had a very particular agenda going into it.
She did, yes.
Yeah. And my thing with Roseanne too is that, like, it's so wild when you like see some of just like the totally batshit stuff that she's said, and it's just like, how did this happen? How does a person go that far off the deep end? And like, easy answer is like, being rich makes you crazy. Like, I think that's probably a major part of it, but I do think that there is a line that you could draw. This is too big of a conversation to have for this podcast.
Right.
There's a line that you can draw from like where she was as a progressive in the 90s, where kind of the whole thing was like pushing back against conservative media and like telling it like it is in a way that wasn't said ever before. Like, I'm going to talk about these important things that you never talk about. And then I think by the time that like sort of far right Trumpism rolls around, a lot of what the right was doing was like, well, we're being censored because you don't want us to say our hate speech, basically. Because like progressivism, like where a lot of progressive stuff and leftist stuff was like sort of has been sort of like, look at the harm that representation and language can do, and like the ripple effects that can have that negatively impact society. So if you're like a comedian whose whole shtick is just sort of like, I am saying what people don't like to hear, like I'm saying what you're all thinking, you don't want to hear it. Like, then if you're in Roseanne's shoes, I guess from her perspective, like feeling like she's being told that she's not allowed to say stuff, then she's like, well, this is my way of pushing back. And that's kind of what Trump's whole deal was with that. It's just like, I'm just going to say the awful shit that people find funny and they want me to say. So like, I can sort of see how she like maybe would sort of slide into that. It just sucks because obviously it seemed like she was smarter than that for the longest time, you know? But again, getting older and being rich, I think that just like fucks with your head.
And also she has had a very publicized history of mental illness, especially with, I believe she has talked about her dissociative identity disorder. So I think there's some stuff with that too, but it was very disappointing to see that. And like, but anyway.
And it's just wild because you don't usually see that kind of stuff so heavily impacting a show and having it sort of ripple back onto the show that happened 30 years before it, you know?
Yeah.
She did famously get fired from the revived series because of like a racist tweet that she had. And that really, I think, was just kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back ultimately and just gave ABC a reason to actually axe her.
Yeah.
And was retooled as the Connors, like we mentioned, which is sort of like living in the premise of this episode of What If You Did Roseanne Without Roseanne.
Yep, that's what I was thinking about.
So fascinating.
It is, yes. It really is.
Yeah. This is certainly not the weirdest, most gimmicky episode of Roseanne that you could find, but the real world context for this one just like makes it so much more endlessly interesting than you would ever expect it to be.
Yeah. Like, as much as we love Roseanne Barr, where she, you know, takes on terrorists on a train and somehow manages to stop them. Yeah. Like, I think this one definitely shows, like, it's more of that subtle nuance and, like, seeing how they perceive it. So, yeah, that's why I actually suggested this one, because I was like, a lot of reflections in this.
Yeah, I'm glad you did. I would definitely love to do other episodes of Roseanne, like the weirder ones. I really love the other one from this season. I really love the other one from this season where, like, she like just wants to take a bath and then has a whole like Broadway dream about like killing her children or whatever.
Yes,
like, fucking Gonzo. I love it. But I'm glad you picked this one because it is just such an interesting piece of history that has such an interesting ripple effect.
Yes.
But, yeah. So let's start digging into it a little more. If you'd like to watch along with us, this episode is streaming on Peacock. The episode we're talking about, An Officer and a Gentleman. The synopsis per IMDb is, Jackie plays happy homemaker with Dan and the kids when Roseanne is called away for 3 days for a family emergency. The original air date was January 23rd, 1990. It was written by Danny Jacobson and Norma Safford Vela. Jacobson created a number of sitcoms, including Mad About You and Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place, and also developed the Odd Couple remake in 2015. And Safford Vela was a co-producer on Roseanne and also produced and wrote on Designing Women, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, The Jersey, and What I Like About You. This episode was directed by John Pasquin. He directed a number of episodes of this show and directed a bunch of the revival season of Roseanne in 2018. He's also directed a ton of other sitcoms over the years, and he directed the films The Santa Claus, Jungle to Jungle, and Miss Congeniality 2, Armed and Fabulous.
Oh, Lord. Always interesting where these connections lie.
So this episode opens up one of two scenes that we get with Roseanne at the very beginning. It's just given us the premise. Roseanne is on her way out to stay with her mom because her father fell and broke his hip.
How's Dad?
Well, he might have broken his hip. Mom's taking him to the hospital.
10 to 1, she pushed him.
Oh, cut it out.
Roseanne, I think I should go down there with you.
No, Mom's tense enough already.
Like I am gonna make her more tense. She is the one that makes me more tense. And you know how she is in a crisis. She can't handle a crisis. I can handle a crisis.
She's leaving. She doesn't want Jackie to come because Mom is tense enough as it is, but also because Dan is working 12-hour days. So, you know, she needs Jackie to be on monster patrol for the kids.
Yeah. I love that line where it was like, she was like, wait, does Mom think I'm going to make her more tense? Because really, Mom makes me more tense. It's like, even when Bev, played by the lovely Estelle Parsons, is not in the episode, like Jackie finds ways to just dig in at her constantly. And I love that dynamic. But yeah.
I love that the presence is felt. And I just love that, like, this whole thing is just Roseanne having absolutely zero faith in Jackie, like, whatsoever.
There's stuff in here for breakfast and stuff in here for making the lunch.
So basically, the food is in the refrigerator.
Right. Are you going to be able to handle this?
Yes, no problem. I make them breakfast, I make them lunch.
Why don't you just help with breakfast and I'll give them some money and they can buy their own lunch?
Dan, I think making 3 sandwiches is within my scope of accomplishment, really.
Just like describing how a refrigerator works and that it stores food.
Yes. So the food is in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at that point, too, Jackie is a police officer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that happened like this season, right? Like, wasn't that a thing that had just happened?
Yep. Yeah, because they quit the plastics factory, and so Jackie just decides to become a cop. And, you know, it's interesting stuff.
Yeah, I'm glad she doesn't stay a cop forever.
Yeah, right.
But it lends a nice pun for the episode title, so.
It does, yes. So we'll allow it this time.
Yeah, right, exactly. So we get our first glimpse of how Jackie's operating as the Roseanne of this episode. She and the kids are at breakfast. Roseanne is like on the phone, but I think tellingly, like, they never cut away to her or anything. So they're still limiting how much they show Roseanne. They learn that she's actually going to be gone the whole week. And this is pretty much just like Jackie just dealing with the kids that are constantly yelling at each other and fighting each other.
It's all your fault, dirty head.
DJ, you're so insignificant.
I'm gonna tell Mom you cursed. Oh, Mom?
Put that on.
That's not clean.
No, but it's dry. So you get going now. Go to school. Go learn something. Pass a note.
All DJ ever does is scream constantly, everything, all the time.
Yeah, he does. God bless Michael Fishman.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame him at all. Like, and he's a fine actor once he grew up and everything, but I don't know what their direction was for him when he was a child. It was just like scream every line, no matter what you're saying, as loud as possible, constantly, which isn't unrealistic, I guess, to like boys his age, but
yeah,
there's not really much else to him.
Exactly. So I've got my notes right here, and like one of the things, did you catch like that extremely like coded dirty joke that happened on the phone?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so there was like something when like she was talking about making dinner to Roseanne on the phone because like the kids were leaving.
Tell Mom hi. And what does Dan like to eat? That's disgusting.
And she was like, well, yeah, what does Dan like to eat? And then like you get a pause, and then Jackie's like, that's disgusting. And like in my notes,
my God.
In my notes, I'm like, I know, in capital letters, I know Roseanne did not make a eating something joke. I don't know if I can say that on here or not.
Say whatever you want. That's fine.
I was like,
mark them all explicit.
That's fair. The fact that like they wrote in and snuck in a eating pussy joke, like that just really, like, I stopped what I was doing when I realized it. I was like, wait, what?
That didn't even occur to me.
That's where my mind went, and I'm assuming that's what it was. But...
And I think Dan as a character would. I think that he would.
Dan Connor would eat pussy. Like,
yeah, Dan Connor would absolutely eat pussy.
He would treat you right.
I think in real life, John Goodman does too. He seems that kind of guy. Yeah.
Dan, John, whoever you want to identify them as, like, they definitely are the type of person that they are not a selfish lover. I could see that. And I think that's why so many gay men navigate to John Goodman and Dan Connor.
Oh, yeah. Oh, look, he is a stud in this show. I mean, in general, but especially in this show at all times.
Yeah.
You can
but anyway, I just
100% get it.
Yeah, so I thought that was just really funny when I caught that. And I was like, I wonder if Derek caught that.
Nope. Oh, that is fantastic. I love it.
Exactly.
But yeah, it is. Man.
Yeah, but it is interesting once like Jackie gets started, like she's like super nervous and like, you know, she's kind of just, she's doing okay. But then Crystal comes over, right?
Yeah. I never liked Crystal very much. And I don't know why. She just always rubbed me the wrong way.
I'm not trying to say anything.
Well, it sounds like you are. I'm tired of everybody thinking I can't handle everything. I might not do everything exactly the way Roseanne would do it if Roseanne was here, or the way that you would do it if you were here, but I think I can handle 3 kids for 3 days.
Why do you always take everything I say the wrong way?
Well, maybe everything you say comes out the wrong way.
And what way's that?
Oh, you know, in that proper, polite, annoying, Crystal kind of way. And what's with the accent? You grew up in Lanford just like we did. My father came from Arkansas.
Well, yeah, because her father came from Arkansas.
Yeah, I do appreciate that. It's like to call it out. Like, what's with the accent? You grew up in Lanford like we did. Why are you the only one here with an accent?
Exactly, yeah. And I always forget that Crystal's a part of the show. And, like, she was a major part of the show, even more so to the point where they brought her back for the revival. Like...
Yeah.
And it definitely was interesting, though, because I think they used her as a really good way to, like, continue showing that doubt everybody has on Jackie.
Yeah.
Which really does drive that narrative for her in the episode that she does have. So I thought that was interesting how they were able to use Crystal in that way, which is actually probably one of my better uses of Crystal in the show.
Oh, no, I agree. I think that they do, because she's only in this one scene, but her presence is like kind of felt for like a couple of scenes after that, because it is very much like she is the more put together housewife that like Jackie would want to be. And so like having her kind of come in and just be like, so how you doing? I just, wanted to check up. And Jackie's just like, why do you think I can't do this? Come on. And they even like, they like straight up argue about it. And like Jackie does kind of admit that like, it is stressful or whatever. And so she does end up getting like help from Crystal, but I think that is like, kind of like you said, that's sort of like the driving force of just being like, you know what? People think that I can't do this. So I'm going to like try extra hard and like totally kill it. And then she does.
Yeah, she does. Which I think a lot of times Jackie as a character, even more so lately in like the Connors, I've noticed, they write her off as this like, kooky and like she can't do anything right, kind of lost and aimless. But like it's really good to see in this episode, like to see Jackie get something and do it right.
Yeah, no, for real. Yeah, because like the next time we see her after this, like it's Dan coming home very late after one of his 12-hour shifts, and it's Jackie just like legit playing housewife and doing fantastic.
Yes.
I don't believe you, Jackie. I've never seen you like this before.
Like what?
Well, you know. I mean, did you clean this place?
Yeah. Well, I had a lot of help. The girls really pitched in.
Is this some 14 Delaware Street?
Yeah.
My girls?
Yeah.
Where are they now?
Everybody's upstairs doing their homework.
Sucker.
Well, they cleaned up without complaining.
How'd you get them to do that?
Cash.
It was so interesting seeing that, because like, and I kind of noted this throughout the episode we talked about a little bit earlier, but like in this episode, like Dan is talking about all these successes and all these wins that he gets. And like, he's like, oh yeah, things are going really well. And like Jackie's really encouraging him and like, being really supportive, which Roseanne was a supportive wife as well. But like, it was just interesting because it felt like so much was going well in this episode for the family, even though historically and canonically, like so much goes wrong for the family all the time.
Yeah. When it doesn't feel false, right? Like it feels like it's just, it feels like everybody just kind of has an optimistic attitude in a way that they don't usually have that. Yeah. Like nobody's really like making like sarcastic remarks or like self-deprecating jokes about their wins. It's just like, yeah, things are going pretty good. It's cool. I'm fine.
Yeah. Which is really cool.
Yeah. And like, I love all these little bits of like Dan just being like progressively more and more shocked at like everything that Jackie's doing right.
Yeah.
Like they got the girls to clean the place and they're doing their homework, and I even bribed him and guilt tripped him, and Dan's just like, hell yeah, man, you're killing it.
Yeah. It's really funny because like you see him react, and like, I think the one thing I really loved was, and I have this in my notes, was after he eats the dinner and he's like, well, no, the only perfect thing that would make this is applesauce. And like he goes to the fridge and there's no applesauce. And then Jackie like holds it next to him as he opens the fridge, and he's just like,
I may have to upgrade you from sister-in-law to friend.
Oh, Dan, that's really sweet.
I just want you to know I really appreciate you coming over and helping out like this.
I like you like this.
What?
Nice.
I know it's like a funny joke, but it's also like really sweet, actually.
Yeah.
It's the first instance of him just being nice to Jackie, and he's just nice to her the rest of the episode.
Yeah, because for most of the series up to that point, like Dan tolerated her and like would make jokes at her expense. Even in the next episode after this, because I let it stream after I watched it again tonight, like he's back to talking about like, oh, you're here, why don't you leave? And like, they kind of get that. But it really does build that relationship that they have, and you continue to see bits of that later in the series, like when Dan goes to prison because he stands up for Jackie by beating her abusive boyfriend. Like, well, not prison, jail. But yeah, like it's really nice to see them like lay the groundwork, because John and Laurie just play off each other so well.
Oh my God, they have such good chemistry in
do,
this episode and in general. And it's just like, yeah, I mean, it is a thing that elevates it from, especially by the time you get to the end of this episode, it's a thing that really elevates it from like your very typical sitcom dynamic of like, wow, I hate my in-laws. Like, that's such a basic thing. And like, it's totally fine. Like, that's a real thing, but it elevates it from just being that to being like, no, you know, she is annoying to him, but like, he still sees her and like loves her at the same time, you know?
Yeah. And we see that a little bit more later in the episode too.
Exactly.
I just really love too how like the Leave It to Beaver reference they do in this episode.
Thanks. See you later, honey.
Okay, dear. But you call if you're going to be real late.
Will do.
Darlene, Becky, DJ, breakfast is ready. I made French toast. Okay, everybody, time for school. Here we go. Front and center, chop, chop.
Yeah, because like the weird thing about this episode too is that the kids behave for Jackie.
Yeah.
Like they do really, like Jackie does really good for her.
Well, I think it's like, I think that makes sense though, because I feel like I remember my experiences as a kid of like, when you're around like you know, whether it's the cool honor uncle or like the cool kind of babysitter that's like anyone that isn't your parents, but that isn't also like, you know, an uptight babysitter or whatever, like it just, you almost respect them more as an adult than you do your parents, because like you're not seeing them as an authority figure. You're almost seeing them a little more as a peer, but a peer that's also kind of like a mentor figure a little bit. It's just like Jackie's there and she's not gonna like, they're not afraid of Jackie. Like they're afraid of Roseanne. First of all, like anyone's kind of afraid of talking, you know, having real talk with their parents. And then it's just like, Jackie is also just kind of like, just cool with them. Like she even is like when Becky like is asking her about her outfit and it's just like, Mom thinks it's too sexy, and Jackie's just straight up like, well, Mom's not here. Like, that's fine.
Exactly.
I think it looks great.
Yeah.
Which is, it's funny that that's the outfit that Roseanne thinks is too sexy when it's just like a dress turtleneck that covers literally everything.
Yeah, there's nothing sexy about that dress.
No,
like
it is not sexy outfit whatsoever. It's cute, but it's not sexy.
Yeah, it's cute. But and it's just really cool seeing that, like seeing that dynamic and seeing the kids get along with each other. Because usually when the kids are getting along, it's because they're like scheming against Roseanne. But like this is just you see that the kids love each other at the end of the day. Yeah, everybody's just really chill. Oh, also one thing I forgot from the scene before it, I also love the applesauce with Jackie, just like casual, like Dan can't open it. And then Jackie, he just hands it to her and she just casually opens it for him. And like, they don't even make a joke about it. It's great. I love it. Yeah. She thinks of everything. So,
but yeah, with this breakfast scene, they once like Jackie starts being good at the housewife stuff, like they even like dress her in like a bright floral shirt and like this old school like apron,
with the heart,
with the hearts and everything. And it's funny because she starts off humming the Leave It to Beaver song to herself while she's cooking, which is a funny enough little reference. And then like they elevate it to, by the end of the scene, it is a direct parody of the Leave It to Beaver opening with the actual theme song and the kids all like taking their lunch and saying goodbye and leaving. Like, it's so good.
Yeah, it really is. And it's made even funnier later on because June Cleaver herself guest starred on the show with several other significant sitcom mothers that were trying to like judge Roseanne for what she was doing. So
yeah, I remember that one.
So it's and
don't they also do like a Leave It to Beaver parody, like black and white parody later on too?
Oh yeah, they do. They've done so many sitcom callbacks. They did like Bewitched, Mary Tyler Moore. They did a whole episode dedicated to Gilligan's Island. Like, like Roseanne does a really good job, I think, with these sitcom references because it shows a lot of love and respect for the shows that came before it. Yeah, for sure. Because they could have very easily made fun of it and like been very like, oh, these shows are crap because they're wholesome. But like instead, it's more like a respect. For sure. I also like the bit with Jackie like teaching Becky how to flirt with a look.
Jaybird, you're an experienced woman, right?
Well, I'm not all that experienced.
But you have dated a lot of boys.
Yes, and a couple of men. Well, there's one.
Okay, this guy Roy in my English class, he's a major babe.
Yeah?
And I know that he likes me, but he doesn't know that I like him. And I don't want to do anything weak like write him a note or have someone else tell him something, you know?
Well, what always worked for me was a look. Because the great thing about a look is you can never say the wrong thing. Brilliant!
The look that Jackie gives makes sense, but the way that Becky tries to imitate it, it's so... she gets it so wrong. It's so funny.
I just love that line, too. It's like, you can't say anything wrong with a look. And I'm like, okay, so Jackie basically invented gay cruising, I guess?
You know what? She could do it.
She could do it.
I believe it.
Oh, yeah.
She could
Jackie
do
could
it.
cruise. I believe
she could pull it off.
Yeah, she could. Oh, my gosh.
Oh, man. It's good shit. It's good shit.
It is.
Yeah. Actually, it's wild because, there's only, 1.5 scenes left after this. This episode doesn't have much to it. It really, I mean, a lot of Roseanne episodes are kind of like that. It's just slice of life, kind of stuff, which is a few scenes of just characters talking to each other.
Exactly.
But it is kind of wild how they kind of get this whole arc out of just very brief interactions with everybody. Because the next thing is basically the last scene of the episode before the credits, but it's a very, very long and very dense scene.
Yes.
Because this is just strictly with Dan and Jackie, and this is the night that night Dan comes home from work. They first start, there's a little bit. They're washing dishes together, and he's joking
Never washed dishes with another woman before.
Really? How's it feel?
Cheap.
So this is what marriage is all about. Come home from work, have dinner with your spouse, wash the dishes together, shoot the breeze, go to sleep.
You're glamorizing it.
Well, I think it would be really comforting to have somebody to talk to when you come home, or at least have somebody be there when you come home.
They're playing, they're playing the jokes. They're playing the I'm with another woman kind of jokes in general. But it really becomes something really, really fascinating and really interesting as it goes along.
Yeah, it does. And it really as that conversation goes on and Dan asks Jackie to talk about, who she's dating, and it becomes that really sweet moment where he is you deserve someone better, you deserve better guys like that. And then the chemistry and the sexual tension is very real.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are sparks in this scene, hard.
And oh yeah. And on top of that, Jackie's well, I can't find a perfect guy like you.
Hey, Jack, you got to lay down a lot of these guys. I mean, you shouldn't be treated like that.
That's the way guys are, Dan.
No, they're not. Not all of them. I'm not like that.
Well, then I guess I should go out and find the perfect guy like you.
Yeah, perfect.
I should have grabbed you when I first saw you.
No chance.
No?
What, meet date a freshman? Are you kidding? No.
I know. And she's very wistfully kind of talking about how nice married life like this must be. And it's oh, you get to come home and talk to someone and everything. And it's it's interesting because it's on one hand, it's two family members connecting with each other, right? In the way where it's just, she can very freely and openly talk about her sort of experiences and her sort of, and what she's lacking in life and what she's missing in life compared to what Dan has. And it's just there's just a real humanity to that kind of conversation where they're both honestly being very vulnerable to each other in a way that with these two characters, I don't know that we've ever seen them be vulnerable with each other. It's just I really wish I could have a life like you do. And Dan's I don't know, it's not really all it's crapped up to be actually, and you deserve better anyway.
Yeah. No, yeah. And it's really good. And it really sparks that conversation too, where Jackie realizes that she's embarrassed him. Mm-hmm. And she's oh, you're embarrassed.
I bet that you don't remember the first time we met. I do.
So do I.
No, you don't.
Okay, I don't.
But I was kind enough to let my sister have you.
Kind? Mm-hmm. Is that the word you use, kind?
Yes, I stepped aside and I held back all my budding teenage passions. You are so funny.
What?
I embarrassed you.
You didn't embarrass me.
You know.
You didn't embarrass me.
I used to have a crush on you in a big way back then.
Yeah, you did?
Yeah. I thought you were pretty cute.
You want a beer?
Now I am embarrassing you.
No, you're not embarrassing me. Hell, I thought you were cute too.
You hated me.
Yeah, I hated you, but I thought you were cute.
John Goodman plays that so well. Like all the weird little like ticks and hand movements of business that he has with him just like messing with his beer and stuff. I mean, he's always good about that in this show. Like I feel like that's a thing that he always did really well, is just finding things to do while he's having a conversation that like feels natural and just feels like a thing that like a nervous person would do, or someone who's thinking would do, or whatever. Yeah. And it really shows in the scene, because it is just sort of like, it almost feels like him flirting with a girl that he likes, you know, even though we know that we know that nothing is going to happen here. And we know that he's not actually like really authentically feeling those feelings, but he's still like kind of treating it like it's still coming through like that, because he is embarrassed when the sort of compliments start coming out.
Yeah. And then Jackie also does her thing where he compliments her, and then she like tries to be like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Like her being defensive.
She just like assumes it's sarcasm. It's like, no, I'm complimenting you. It's fine.
Yeah. And it's definitely like, I don't know. I think I've been in that situation too, where you like talk to someone and like that tension is there, and it's kind of like that what if, or like, you know, what if there was something. And so this episode hits me hard, because it's like I've been kind of in those shoes before, and like you can definitely tell that like there's that brief moment where they both realize like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, and then Jackie's like, I gotta go.
Well, there's again this conversation of like Jackie even basically is sort of like, I had a crush on you when we first met, and I bet you don't even remember when we first met, but I really had this crush on you, and I thought you were so cute, and I basically just let my sister have you. And that's kind of what gets him like super embarrassed. And like, and it's very clear, like I feel like it's a major character point with Jackie, that she always has like confidence issues. She does not believe in herself really. So of course she's just going to assume like, well, yeah, you were this like perfect guy who I could never have. My sister was always going to have you. I was never in your league to begin with. And that's just a thing that she's always assumed. But from Dan's point of view, like he clearly didn't even know that she ever felt that way about him, period, ever at all. And I think that that like really kind of like shocks him a lot in this scene.
Yeah. And I think it's definitely that idea of the what if, and I think you can definitely tell with both of them as that conversation continues further, like both like just the way, like you mentioned John himself, but also Laurie like does those subtle nuances and like nods and like facial expressions and nonverbals. You can tell that in those characters' minds they're thinking like about what could have been. Yeah, well, because like once they really get into it, then Dan pays her a lot of compliments, and he's just like, oh yeah, you're funny and you're smart and you're good looking and everything, and she's like, wait, you like I thought I like got on your nerves. And he's like, no, I did hate you when we were teenagers. I still thought you were cute. And then it's just like, and you still get on my nerves now, which, kind of implies like, she got on his nerves when they were teenagers, but he thought she was cute. She gets on his nerves now. He probably still thinks she's cute. Like that probably hasn't stopped. And like Laurie Metcalf, pretty hot. So I get it. Yeah. And she just does so well. Like, oh my gosh. I'm so grateful that her and John were on the show, because they brought this nuance and level to it. Yeah. I mean, that you wouldn't normally get. For sure. Yeah. They're so good. And they're really good in this like last bit of the scene, which is just so powerful and so poignant. There's all these sparks happening. There's clear chemistry. Like, again, you're watching and you kind of know that like, they're not going to kiss or something. Like this isn't that kind of sitcom, but like the sparks are very clearly there. Right. And then they get a call, and it's Roseanne calling just to check in and everything. And Jackie's just like, all right, well, I should go. This is feeling weird now. But while she's leaving, like Dan sort of like scrambles and puts Roseanne on hold to stop Jackie from leaving. And then it's like, wait, hold on. And then he gives this like really beautiful monologue.
Hang on, Roseanne. Jackie leaving?
Yeah, you tell her hi and I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay. Hey, Jackie. We just lost the Poly High game 27-14. You were standing on the northeast corner of the football field with that redheaded girl, and she had on an orange sweater, and you had on a gray hooded sweatshirt. Jackie. Drive careful.
Thank you.
It's describing in like incredible detail the first time he saw her, which Jackie thought that he like just assumed that he would never remember. And like the way that they play it, like he just stops, she like freezes in place while she's in the middle of putting on her coat. And then the camera just like zooms in on her face while she's listening to him deliver this like beautiful little monologue. That's just like, again, super detailed, like exactly what she was wearing and what she looked like at the time when you first saw her, which is only a thing that happens when like someone makes a real impact on you, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just like a really nice moment. And, you know, it's like, there's sort of that vibe of like the what if, like maybe this could have actually worked and we could have been a couple and we could have had a whole life together. But even if it isn't, it's still like a moment of Dan like showing Jackie that like, no, I saw you and I see you. Like you would have been worth my love and you do deserve more. Like you are worth it. Which is really beautiful.
Yeah, no, it really is.
It's a really like kind of nice end to that little story. And then we just get, you know, one little end credits tag where Roseanne shows up with a new haircut. You know, and all the kids are like screaming, and then eventually they hug her because they're happy she's back or whatever. They love each other. But all while like Jackie is just like watching from the next room. Like she isn't in on the group hug. She's just kind of watching this happen from the side.
Yeah. And like Roseanne also, she sees that too. Like there's that moment when she like looks up and looks at Jackie and Jackie kind of like nods at her.
Yeah.
Cause it's definitely like, and I think in the long term of the show, this episode is definitely formative in Jackie's character because she always wants that. She wants the family. She wants, you know, all of those things. And she does eventually get some of that in the show later on. But some of it works and some of it doesn't, unfortunately.
Sure.
For Jackie.
Well,
but,
and you know, and if you want to kind of read it on like in the meta way of this sort of like, can we do Roseanne without Roseanne? I feel like it's the end of the episode. It's sort of reckoning with like, I guess we can't, because Jackie's just sort of like watching that and realizing it's just sort of like, I'm never going to permanently be able to be Roseanne. Like there is a what if scenario where maybe it could have happened. There could have been a version of the sitcom where it's Jackie and Dan. And that's the version of the Connors. But obviously that's like not going to happen and is never going to.
Right.
Nobody can replace Roseanne. She'll always be here.
Yeah. Yep. She will until she's not.
Until she's not. But you know, I think it was a good choice that once she did leave, you know, once she was fired, it's not like they just immediately hooked up Dan and Jackie. Like, I think that would have been a bad choice. Like it wouldn't make sense, you know.
It wouldn't have, not at that point. And like, and they do a really good job on the Connors anyway of like Dan's journey to marrying Katie Seagal's character. Like it's a slow burn romance.
For sure.
And
that
like
makes sense.
and like it takes him a long time to even want to date her. And like they even make that a central conflict of like she understands and she's trying to like meet him halfway, but he has to make an attempt, and so she actually leaves him for a bit because of that. And like it just shows that like even though the Connors is able to be successful without Roseanne, and you know Darlene steps up in that show and becomes the new Roseanne in a way, they do a really good job of like still letting her presence be known and be felt, but not like shoehorning it in.
No, that totally makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, even in this episode where she isn't around, like there's still kind of always that sort of specter of like, you know, I mean, there's like trashier sitcoms that would have made a whole soap opera type plot of like Jackie hooking up with Dan or something. Yeah. They would have done that, and I'm glad that obviously the show like didn't like never, you know, stoop to that level or anything. But I think the fact of sort of acknowledging that like, that is a thing though. Like there is chemistry and we're going to grapple with it and we're going to recognize it. And there is a world in which that could exist, in which like this was possible. This just isn't the world that we exist in right now, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good episode. I get honestly really teary eyed at Dan's monologue at the to Jackie at the end, just cause it's just like, it feels very meaningful just to, I don't know, just have someone just being like, no, I recognize you and you made an impact on me, even if like neither of us necessarily realized it at the time. I think that's really powerful.
Yeah, I'm just like, I just want somebody like that.
I know, right? Oh God, I want someone to just describe in detail the first time they saw me and how beautiful I looked to them, everything that I was wearing and how I was standing and where I was standing.
Exactly. All the while enjoying my pot roasted milk.
Sure. I'll take the French toast. The dry ass French toast that they don't even put syrup on, that annoyed me. Like powdered sugar is good and everything. Like I'm not super mad at eating like French toast without syrup, but I wouldn't choose that for myself.
I mean, that's not even French toast. That's cinnamon toast at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can't even call it French toast at that point. Well, any other closing thoughts or anything about this episode?
I mean, I think it really goes to show that Roseanne in general had a good cast overall. Like, even with the kid actors, like, yes, Michael Fishman does a lot of screaming, but like, it just shows that like the lightning in a bottle they caught with some of these cast members. And I think it also is just kind of eerie watching this episode and knowing eventually what's going to happen later on with her character being written off, but also like how they write her off. And I think it's just interesting. And I think it also, like, as we think about like how good this cast was, it makes me sad that like a lot of the cast members did not get to go on and have those like amazing careers after the show.
Yeah.
And like, you know, obviously John and Roseanne, even Roseanne after the show was over with, she didn't really get to do much after that. Like, no, John and Laurie did, but really like the rest of the cast, even though they were all great, they just didn't, for whatever reason, get to do too much. Like they had guest bits and things like that, but it's hard for child actors, like, you know, breaking in once they've grown up, when they grow up on a show. And obviously like Roseanne was like notoriously hard to work with and everything. So like, I guess like it makes sense that, it makes sense that John and Laurie were like the two breakouts from it ultimately. But it is a bummer because it is it's like a stat cast. Everybody is good on this show. Yeah. Which is definitely like one of the things I like about the Connors, is because it took them a while to get back into it. Like when the kid actors came back as adults, which fun fact, when Michael Fishman returned for Roseanne season 10, he actually took acting lessons because he hadn't acted for so long.
Oh, wow. Good for him.
Like he's
better than when he was way better than when he was a child.
Yeah, he like openly talked about that in some interviews, I remember, because he was like, I hadn't acted in so long that like I needed to take acting lessons because I was so worried about not being a good actor anymore.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it is. But I think overall it's a good episode. It really, like you said, it's not like a gimmick episode in the traditional sense, but at the same time, like it does things so differently and it feels so different that it's just it's really interesting television.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks so much for talking about it with me.
Yeah.
If people want to find you and everything you're working on, where's the best place they can find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on a few places. You can find me on Twitter at BridgetMT3, where I am frequently, you know, dishing out hot takes about multicolored heroes and spandex in particular. Speaking of which, you can also find me on May the Power Protect You, the Power Ranger podcast for everybody, which can be found on most major podcast platforms. And you can also find us on Twitter on @MayThePowerPod. Derek has actually been on there with us before, with me and Joel. We've had great times. And, you know, if you want to learn more about that, it's always a good time to listen to. And if you want, and, you know, I enjoy it. So, and you can find me on Twitch at BridgetMT, but I don't stream that often. So
Awesome. Well, thanks again. You can find me on Twitter at Derek B. Gale, or on my other podcast, Walloping Web Snappers, a Spider-Man podcast, which does deep dives into every Spider-Man cartoon ever made, and Falling with Style, an ongoing Pixar movie marathon, which is a monthly podcast that dives into every Pixar film chronologically. You can also follow this podcast at Gimmicks Pod on Twitter and Instagram for some extra goodies, and email me your questions, feedback, and corrections to gimmicspodcast@gmail.com. Please rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast on all podcast platforms. And until next time, friends, keep being weird.
And what does Dan like to eat? That's disgusting.